The other day I was walking around a supermarket here in Japan when I just heard BiSH playing over the speakers, and it was one of the songs from this brilliant final album they've been working towards all of last year. But I was just filled with this sense of sadness, suddenly realizing there's not going to be any new BiSH songs. Well, Whack have very different ideas about that as they announce BiSH The Next. But is it really everything that we want it to be? And what exactly is going to happen next? Well, this is all part of what we are unpacking here today. So, let's get into it. Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where, as I say, we are now in the midst of the new Whack BiSH The Next process. They've started requesting people to come forwards for auditions, and well, this is kind of something that in a way we could have expected, but we didn't really know how this was going to go down. In fact, about an hour or two before this announcement was dropped, I was in the process of actually recording a video myself talking about what I suspected the future for BiSH was, because as I said in that video, that I don't know, maybe I'll just release it in retrospect at some point, but as I said in that video, there is no way that Whack were going to let the BiSH brand just die. But it is very interesting how they've gone about this. So what we're going to be talking about today is what's going to happen next, what potentially I feel about it, and also I want to know what you guys feel about BiSH The Next. So when you get towards the end of this video, do feel free to start dropping your comments below as well. But let's start by getting into what BiSH The Next is. Simply put, BiSH The Next appears to just basically be a brand new group. But there is precedent for this. I mean, you must remember that BiSH themselves came into existence as kind of a response to the initial form of BiS, obviously if you don't know, also a Whack group, ending. And this being at the time Whack's biggest artist, they needed something to fill that gap. They weren't just going to let a big money spinner disappear, so they generated BiSH, and then, ironically, at pretty much the same time, another new version of BiS came into existence, and Whack ended up with twice as many big-name artists as before. But of course, since then, BiSH have now become the biggest money spinner for Whack, and so now they're not going to let this one die either. And this was a big basis of what I was saying in my previous, now unreleased video, is that there was just no way that the BiSH brand was going to end. And I've been saying this since last year, and a lot of people have been telling me, no, Howard, no, that's it. Turns out I think I was right on this one, but I must admit I wasn't expecting them to do it in exactly this way. See, my original prediction was I figured that they would give it a little bit of time to get people sort of eagerly thinking, oh, I wish BiSH would come back, and then I thought they would announce maybe, say, a couple of the BiSH members who weren't overly busy coming back to train new members or something like that. This was just my sort of pie-in-the-sky theory. What I didn't expect was that Whack would be announcing this before BiSH have even finished. They're announcing the replacement and the auditions. Whack are not going to give themselves any period to just sort of have nothing of a main BiSH money spinner at the front of their roster. And I have two feelings on this, a very sort of mixed feeling about it, but I guess I shouldn't be overly surprised. As I've said, look, many people have different feelings about Whack. Some people feel that their overly sort of shock jockey approach towards how they present their artists and their behind the scenes things is very fun. Some people not as much. I'm not sort of playing the old PC woke angle here. I just kind of find some of the Whack stuff a little bit, I guess I'm not interested in the sort of self-generated drama that Whack like to do, but I do at the same time like the fact that they produce groups that are supposed to be the anti-idols, rebellious, a little bit different. However, the truth is really, beyond all of that shock value stuff that Whack are so famous for liking to drum up, really they are probably the most overtly and just face value, they're just very open about the fact that they love money. Whack really, really love money. And, so there was me thinking, oh, they'll give it a little bit of time to build up the interest. No, they're not going to give it any time. They're going to make sure that the new BiSH is available pretty much as soon as the old BiSH is out of the door. So anyways, time to get on to some opinions about this. And the first opinion is really on how they are going to deal with getting people to accept this BiSH The Next. See, the problem for me is that it doesn't really feel like it's going to be very easy to make people just like this group in the same way. See, we've had graduations in Japanese pop really since I think it was Onyanko Club in the 80s. It's something where when various members of a pop group get to a certain age where they're not considered sort of idle age anymore, they graduate, they go on to do other things. I don't want to say they get fired, but effectively they go to take the stock of what their fame is and move on to other opportunities, and then younger members are brought in. However, this doesn't feel like a graduation. I'm sure that WAC will probably, well, I've been wrong about some of my predictions, but I'm sure they will make some effort to make it feel like a graduation, have some kind of handover between BiSH the previous and BiSH the Next. However, it is still going to be an entirely new group. So in what way are they going to be BiSH the Next? Because that is important for making people really appreciate them. Now, you could say it's the songwriting. Well, as many of us have pointed out in our conversations about WAC artists before on this channel, there is a lot of this, I know this is a slightly contentious term, but this Kentacore sound, this feeling of the songs having Kenta's writing style, that has not just solely been a BiSH thing. That has gone through other artists in the WAC catalogue. So that's something that ties all of the BiSH artists together, is that. And then at the same time, all of those artists will occasionally have songs written by different writers as well. And I must say that some of BiSH's most distinctive songs of recent have been the ones written by guest writers. So we're talking about a group with entirely new members. So none of the original BiSH members will be in this new group. The songwriting, when it is different, will be different because it's guest writers, which again differs them from the previous BiSH. And when it is the same, will be because it's the Kenta style of writing, which is also shared with all of the other BiSH groups. So there is no distinctive thing that makes this BiSH again, except for the name. And that, for me, is where this can have a bit of a problem. I don't know whether it's going to be easy. I mean, different people can be swayed different ways. I don't know if it's going to be easy to just convince people this is BiSH. You can have all the ceremonial handoffs you want. You can give it the name. You can give them songs that sound familiar. You can give them permission to perform the old BiSH songs live at their concerts as though they are the rebirth of BiSH. But it's not going to feel the same. I mean, whatever you feel about pop group graduations, it is a great way of making us feel that the same group has continued onwards. To use the old example from there's an old, I can't believe I'm referencing this is really off the cuff, but there's an old English comedy called Only Fools and Horses, and there's one person there who works with a broom. And he says, I've had the same broom for like 40 odd years. And they ask him, wow, how have you had it so long? And he says, well, I've replaced the handle like 50 times. And I've replaced the head about 30 times. That's feeling of, is it the same broom anymore? So this is the point, is that you can convince someone by replacing members time and time again. But when you just completely change the whole thing in one go, well, I don't know how easy people are going to relate to that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys say. And this is something I really want you to get in the comments and say. Do you feel that this is going to feel like a continuation of BiSH for you? And if not, does using the name just feel like another one of those cheap whack tricks to try and basically make a bit of profitability? And when it comes to the future of this group, I imagine that some of the ways that they're going to try and make this work probably will be things like, well, I don't know this for certain, but I guess I wouldn't be overly surprised if they tried to bring in a roster of members who reminded us of BiSH. You know, maybe one member who's got that iron quality of having a bit more of a jazzy voice. Maybe having someone like Momoko, who's the cute one who doesn't want to be cute, wants to be rebellious. Maybe having a sort of a Uni D member who's got the sort of higher punk rock voice. I think they're going to probably try and remind us of what we had before, but then again, I don't know. Is that going to be too on the nose? Are we going to compare the members to the old members too directly if they do that? The one thing that I am pretty certain of, though, is that we will occasionally on BiSH The Next tours have old legacy members joining them along the way, maybe to sort of reignite a little bit of that nostalgia, maybe perform a few songs with them. I'm sure there'll be something like that at the handover point, which I guarantee will be very ceremonial. I think it's going to be interesting, and from my own personal opinion, I am going to credit BiSH The Next on their own level. I'm going to obviously pay attention. I'm going to have a lot of good wishes for them, hope them to do well, but I'm always going to feel weird calling them BiSH because they're not going to be BiSH to me, but I hope that they grow into something that I love in their own right, and I will try my absolute best to give them credit on their own merit rather than trying to compare them to BiSH. And see, this is the thing for me, is that ultimately WAC's decision to create a group called BiSH The Next is going to be something that, in the most positive light, could basically allow them to ride on the coattails of what came before, giving them a launch into hopefully making their own legacy, but in a negative light could just leave us with a big ability to do a comparison. See, when it came to BiSH, yes, I know BiSH have a lot of fans, but BiSH certainly have been much less of an international phenomenon than BiSH have. And so I think they were dealing more with a Japanese audience who are more familiar with this kind of system of reboots and graduations. But dealing with BiSH, I think they're dealing with an international fan base who perhaps are not so open to this kind of thing and see it perhaps more as a gimmick, who are less likely to just pick up and carry on when they're given a new version. So I am really looking forward to seeing where this goes. But once again, get in the comments and please tell me what you guys think, because you guys are the audience after all, and what you think is going to be a big part of knowing where this is going to go. So there you have it. If you want to do an audition for BiSH The Next, put yourself forwards. They're advertising for it online. I first saw this on Twitter, but go ahead. Whoever you are, put yourself forwards to be a member of BiSH The Next. Looking forward to seeing what you guys think. Do you regard this as a cynical attempt to cash in on a group that hasn't even finished yet? Do you regard it as something that's going to be exciting and new? Do you feel that it's a natural continuation of BiSH and there is some way that they can make these two groups align up in a way that will make the transition feel totally just natural? Looking forward to seeing what you guys say, and until I hopefully speak to you in the comments and see you on the next one of these videos, for now, ciao ciao.